Somewhere off a distant, unnamed coast, there is a road that does not end where the land ends.
It keeps going, past the beaches, past the last visible shoreline, out over open ocean.
Where the water is deep enough to swallow a 10-story building, and the wind is strong enough to flip a truck. And then, just when it looks like the road is about to run out of ocean to cross,
the entire highway suddenly vanishes and disappears completely from the surface.
it dives underwater through a tunnel resting on the seabed, so that the largest ships on Earth can pass overhead without ever knowing a highway is running beneath their hulls. It is one of the most extreme pieces of engineering ever attempted by human beings. And it was built to survive an 8-magnitude earthquake and withstand a Category 16 super typhoon with ease. And a direct hit from a fully loaded cargo ship. Fully loaded cargo ship. All at the same time, if it had to. Even skilled engineers, the people who built iconic sky-spanning bridges and grand urban connectors, looked at the blueprints for this thing and said it could not be done in this ocean, over this seabed, in this amount of time. China built it anyway, and soon you will understand why nothing like it exists on the planet. To understand why this crossing is considered one of the hardest engineering problems ever solved, you have to understand the stretch of water it crosses. The Pearl River Delta is one of the busiest, most dangerous, and most economically important bodies of water on the planet. It connects 3 of the world's most important cities:
Hong Kong, Macau, and the mainland city of Zhuhai.
And for decades, the distance between them was measured not in kilometers, but in hours. A container truck moving cargo from Zhuhai to Hong Kong had 2 choices: drive nearly 4 hours around the entire delta on congested mainland roads, or load the cargo onto a ferry and hope the weather held. There was no direct route. Not because nobody wanted one, but because nobody believed one was possible.
The distance to cross is roughly 55 kilometers of open water,
which is equivalent to more than 34 miles of open sea. Longer than the entire length of Manhattan, repeated over 20 times in a row.
For a quick comparison, let's look at the famous Golden Gate Bridge.
Longer than the entire length of Manhattan, repeated over 20 times in a row.
Is less than 3 kilometers long. This crossing needed to be almost 20 times that length. Over open sea, not a calm bay.
And the water itself was hostile. This part of the South China Sea sits in the path of the most violent typhoons on Earth.
Wind speeds during a direct typhoon strike.
Can exceed 250 kilometers per hour.
The seabed beneath the water is soft marine clay in some sections, capable of swallowing a badly designed foundation over time, and running straight through the middle of the crossing zone. Is one of the busiest shipping lanes on the planet. Hundreds of massive cargo vessels, some carrying over 20,000 containers,
are passing through this busy channel every single day.
Any bridge built across this water would have to be tall enough to let those ships pass beneath it.
But the shipping lane also happened to sit directly beneath the approach path for Hong Kong International Airport,
one of the busiest airports in Asia.
A bridge tall enough for ships would be too tall for planes on final approach.
This is the exact kind of problem where most countries would simply say the crossing is impossible,
and leave it as a ferry route forever. Outside the country believed could work. A bridge that becomes a tunnel in the middle of the ocean, without a single visible seam, where one method fails and the other begins.
The bridge that turns into a tunnel.
Here is the part that made engineers in the West stop and stare at the plans twice.
For most of its length, the crossing is a bridge, 6 lanes wide,
resting on massive concrete piers driven deep into the seabed.
But as it approaches the busiest section of the shipping lane,
the bridge does something almost no infrastructure project in history had attempted at this scale.
The entire roadway suddenly sinks down towards the water. The roadway descends onto 2 artificial islands built specifically for this purpose.
and between those 2 islands, it disappears entirely underwater, becoming a 6.7-kilometer undersea tunnel. Over 4 miles of roadway sitting on the ocean floor. Deep enough that the largest container ships in the world can pass directly overhead with room to spare.
Think about what that actually requires.
You are not digging a tunnel through solid rock the way engineers usually do. You are assembling it piece by piece on the seabed itself.
In a stretch of ocean known for violent storms and shifting currents.
The tunnel was built using 33 individual concrete segments,
which are officially called immersed tube sections.
Each one roughly 180 meters long
and weighing around 80,000 tons, making each segment significantly heavier than the Eiffel Tower. This incredibly difficult process was repeated 33 times, sunk into position on the ocean floor with a margin of error smaller than a human hand.